Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
A huge warm welcome to everyone out there, wherever you are in the world. It is an absolute pleasure, as always, to be hosting this Live, Learn, Teach, Inspire series. And I'm welcoming an amazing individual who I've known for the last 5 years, someone who is unbelievable at what she does not leave a stone unturned. It's wonderful Sonya Moledina, who has come through the British School of Excellence many years ago and did our Train the Trainer program, including emotional intelligence, and has gone on to do some unbelievable work in her community and through her training platform. Etiquette and Emotions is the name of her organization. And Sonya, without further ado, I know you're going to be taking us on an incredible journey about even children have a personal brand. So I'd love you to come into the studio and just share with people a bit of your background, and then I'd love you to go into a couple of stories and some personal experiences to demonstrate why children should learn about this.
Thank you so much, Philip, for your kind introduction. As Philip said, I run an organisation called Etiquette and Emotions, where I coach children on social and emotional skills. Prior to that, I used to work in project management. And I think when I was in the corporate world, I was very aware of the fact that, and very curious actually, about the fact that the people that I noticed who were getting ahead, influencing decision makers, being, put up for promotions, and were not actually the people that were the most educated or had, the most sort of technical skills. I actually felt that the people and my colleagues that were getting ahead were the ones that communicated really well, could negotiate with stakeholders, build rapport with people in different departments, and could seal deals with clients. And so that really interested me about their social and emotional skills and how they were using that to get ahead in the workplace. And I think as a project manager and as a mum of young children, it really hit me that I could get my children through the education system with top grades, but if they didn't have good social and emotional skills, it would not prepare them for the world of work, and it won't help. They won't get ahead in their personal relationships. That social and emotional skills should be, on par with English and maths. It's really important, and I talk about it because all of this then leads to your personal brand, and we will soon talk about what a personal brand means. Oh, I can't actually hear you, Philip. I'm not sure if that's just on my end.
I was being polite and muted myself. Sonya, from your experience, have you got any sort of little stories that demonstrate why children should learn about this?
I'll start a little bit with my own experience. So when I was working in project management, as I sort of mentioned earlier, at that time, my son was 9 years old and my daughter was 6. And I came across an etiquette course, and it was taking place quite a distance from my home. And I thought, no, this looks really interesting. I would love for my children to learn these skills. And although it was quite a distance from home, my children enrolled on this one-day workshop, and it was almost like an overnight elevation of their personal brands or the way that they conducted themselves. So we were just going about day-to-day life. We went to the supermarket, and I think the children were just more aware of their surroundings, holding open doors for people. When the lady at the cashier was serving us, they were making conversation with her, asking her about her day. And people came up to my children and to me and said, wow, your children have got such amazing conduct. They've got such lovely manners. We didn't say they've just returned from an etiquette course, but it was an overnight sort of change in the way they conduct themselves. And I've been a firm believer in social and emotional skills ever since I saw the results for myself. And personally, I coach 10-year-olds for entry into senior schools, into leading UK senior schools. And recently a mum contacted me and she said, Sonya, I just really want to thank you because my son had a group interview as part of his interview or assessment process for senior school. And she said to me, Sonya, you told him to smile, make eye contact, introduce himself to his peers that he meets on the day, and shake hands with people. And later on, the head of the junior school said to that boy, you were the only student who actually shook hands and introduced yourself, and we were so impressed with you at your interview, and it's the reason why we offered you a place at this highly competitive school. So I've seen it, the impact with my own children, and I love to see the difference that it makes with the students that I work with as well.
Oh, that just gives me goosebumps from head to toe. And I just love hearing that because there's nothing more amazing. And I just see your whole face light up when you share that story about Shakir and about this past student. And I know how powerful this is because you've had it at the coalface, we've had it at the coalface. And I know for a fact, just in an hour and a half, 2 hours of coaching and development in this sphere, it can elevate any person, but they've obviously got to put that into practice. And it does, it gives me goosebumps. And just seeing your face light up there, Sonya, I know how dynamic you are at what you do. And I think this is something that people watching you here today on Live, Learn, Teach, Inspire, I really pray and hope that they've got a notebook and a pen and are making some fundamental notes on how this can take and elevate children of all ages and through the stratosphere. So it's absolutely wonderful. Tell me something I'd love to ask you with regard to the whole understanding of personal branding, as in people often think of branding as in watching, looking at Nike or looking at Coca-Cola. That's branding. But what is personal branding and how would you define that? And for you, how do you explain that to people? And it's such a key, important aspect of our being.
There is a definition that resonates quite well with me. Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, he defines your personal brand as what people say about you or what they think about you when you're not in the room. So I'll say that again: what people say about you or what they think about you when you're not in the room. And I mean, this can mean so many things, but just a few examples. It might mean that when they think about you, what associations they make. Like, are you lighthearted? Are you very serious? Do they view you and perceive you as someone who's humble or perhaps someone that's a little bit stuck up? Do they feel that they can trust you? If they had a secret or need to talk about something confidential, can they put their trust in you? Are you someone who they admire or perhaps frown upon? And so I think it's the feeling that people have about who you are, your personality, your values, the skills that you have, and essentially what you stand for as a human being. And what I personally do is I talk to children about companies that they're aware of. We talk about the celebrities or sports personalities that they know, perhaps their favorite football players. And we come up with some of the words that come to mind, what associations they might make with that person. For instance, strong, athletic, motivated, hardworking, perhaps an angry person, perhaps someone who doesn't control their temper very well, maybe someone who's very charitable. Just from their perception, what do they think of when they think of that person? So I hope that gives you a flavor for what I see personal branding to be, Philip.
I love that. And it really is. It's something that we all have an opportunity and a window of opportunity to make a good first impression. And that is so key and so important in everything we do. And something I absolutely love what you said there was what resonates with individuals, and you can then turn to them and say, so you've identified that, let's say, football player, you've shown and shared with me what the good attributes are, and you lean into, but they get have a bit of a temper. Now, is that something that is going to put you in good light? And if you do have a temper, how can we work on developing you, taking that under control, which I know you deliver in the emotional intelligence side of things as well, and giving your students these incredible tools. What I would love to ask you is, when it comes to our personal brand, what are some of the key elements that we can start to work on with ourselves, without sort of obviously delivering a full course right now, but just some snippets on some of the tools that you might share and give to your students that would help them to start developing their personal brand?
Yeah, firstly, Philip, I just wanted to just give a little bit of a snippet on why I think personal branding matters from childhood, because I think this is a concept that perhaps not many people are familiar with in terms of childhood, because we think about personal branding in the workplace or in the corporate world or in business. It's not normal for a 12-year-old to be thinking about their personal brand. So I thought if I explain that a little bit, and then I can then explain further sort of how I teach this to children.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And I would say, in my mind, there's three main reasons why I feel that this is relevant to children. And I've tried and tested this on my own children and the students that I work with. Firstly, not everything that shines is gold. And I want children to understand that when they're purchasing from a company, or they're exposed to companies, or they're exposed to people, people and companies are brands. The way they package themselves is part of their brand. So, for instance, someone might be trying to show you that they're a really good person or a kind person, but then they speak very abruptly to the waiter, or very abruptly to their sibling, and you might sort of feel that actually the way they've packaged themselves and what they're now displaying is different. There's some inconsistency there. Or when it comes to companies and products, for instance, children, I see, the teenagers that I work with, a lot of them, they love their branded trainers and branded clothing. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with designer or branded trainers or clothing. But just for them to be aware that the fact that it's a designer item doesn't mean that it's better quality. It doesn't mean that it's going to be more comfortable. If you still want it, it's fine. But I think it's important from a young age that children have an awareness of what is the packaging, what is the slogan, what is this company or this person trying to make me feel? And is it consistent with the content? Is it consistent with that person or that organization when I'm then interacting or being a consumer? So I think that awareness is really important. Secondly, I want to use the example of planting a tree, that when we plant that seed to plant a tree, we can't see the growth that's happening underneath the soil. We can't see what's happening at the roots until it sprouts into a tree. And I feel that for optimal growth, the groundwork needs to be done now. And what I mean by groundwork is children thinking, who am I? What are my values? What matters to me? What are my strengths? What am I good at? And what do I want to give to the world? What do I want to, what is it about me that I feel I want to share with the world? So they can consider all of this as they're growing up. And thirdly, and I don't know if your listeners can resonate with this, and I know this has happened to me, especially growing up when I wasn't sure of who I was, I would find myself nodding and agreeing in conversations to things that in my heart and mind, sometimes I didn't agree with. And again, if we use the analogy of a tree, if you don't know who you are, your branches are going to sway with the wind. You're going to get pushed this way and that way. But if you know who you are and you deliberately thought about it, sorry about that. Yeah. If you've thought about it, then you can be a bit more deliberate in the actions that you take. So let's say, for instance, at school, one of your friends is sort of teasing someone or being a little bit mean about someone, and you've really thought about your personal brand is that you're a kind person. You might have more confidence to think, actually, I'm not going to engage in that. I'm not going to join that conversation or that behavior because that's not my personal brand. So I think it's so important for children from a young age to do that groundwork, blossom in, for optimal growth, be firm in their beliefs and their thoughts.
I love that. Absolutely. So, and the analogy of the tree, it just makes it very simple for people to grasp how this sort of starts to develop. And so much does, as we know, it starts behind closed doors, so to speak, even way before they start going to nursery school and junior school and those sort of things. And it really is up to us as parents to understand the importance and the power of this. And I know there's that wonderful poem that Dorothy Law Nolte has shared with us, and I've shared a copy with you, is children learn what they live. And it is really up to us. I had a privilege of addressing an audience recently, and my final closing words were very much, we are the shepherd, and we need to guide and we need to steer our children, because if we don't invest in our children now, we're going to have a very rocky future, because they are the future, and we have the privilege of really instilling this incredible confidence in them. And it does start with so many aspects, but this personal branding, hearing what you're having to say, is just a fundamental tool in their development and growth.
Yeah, and I think until it's brought to your awareness, as an adult or even a child, you don't sometimes think about it in the terms of that you're a brand ambassador for yourself, for your family, for your community, for your school, for the company that you work for. That it's important that you represent yourself as you want to be seen.
Absolutely, so, and for your country as well. Unfortunately, as we know, there's labels attached to various people that come from various countries because, oh, that's typical, and that stigma is awful. And we are individuals. Everyone else is taken. So be you, but be you with this amazing foundation, and stand up for the right reasons rather than the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and I think essentially personal branding is important for you to be a good human being. Like I said, be a good citizen, be a good member of society. But also there is that bonus and advantage, though, that if you know how to package yourself, how to conduct yourself and be the best version of yourself, that's going to then help your child with school, university, interviews, in the workplace, in their personal relationships. So it's about integrity and being a good person, but it also does give them an advantage to face those, milestones as they go through life as well.
Without a doubt. And that actually leads me on to the next question that I would love to ask you is, could you sort of elaborate and give us a bit of guidance and steering in how you go about and what do you teach in your personal branding courses and workshops?
Okay, so there's 4 main areas that I cover when I teach children, because I really want to break it down. And obviously the way I'm talking about it now is not the way I talk to children, because it's far more interactive and engaging than this. But essentially there's 4 main areas. Number 1 is their physical image. Number 2, I talk to them about their inner strengths, and we do a lot of reflective work on that. Number 3 is all about their conduct and how they treat other people. And number 4 is all about their mindset and their attitude, like what's going on in their mind and how that comes out in their attitude or their performance. And I'm happy to talk about those 4 areas, Philip, if it helps the listeners.
I think it would be so fundamental if you could just elaborate on those 4 areas. It would really start to give some wonderful flesh on the bone and give people some guidance and steering of how they can start to move in the correct direction, not only just for their children, but for themselves as well. So it would be wonderful if you could expand. We've got some wonderful time ahead of us. So please don't feel that we're eating into any precious time. We've got some wonderful time ahead of us. And so just from your area of expertise, your experience, I mean, hearing that story about how you, and this is just one story, I know you've got many stories you can share with us. And please, again, any other stories you would love to share with us, feel free to do so. But that story about how that mum approached you and said, what you taught my son has just been absolutely phenomenal. And he got a place because you gave him these, and the word tips and tricks are not the right terminology. You gave him tools, you gave him a skill set that allowed him to put his best foot forward with confidence.
Yeah. And I'm very conscious. I mean, when we talk about physical image, we live in a very material world. And I don't want to make personal brand all about your physical image, because that literally is just the packaging. You know, if we were a chocolate bar, it literally is just the packaging. And there's so much more to it. You know, your inner strengths and your conduct and what you stand for as a human being. However, I always start off by talking to children about their physical image, because it is a material world that we live in, and there's a lot of social media and a lot of influences on our children. And when I talk about physical image, I always explain to my students that it's not about wearing branded or expensive clothing. You can be dressed very casually, and that's absolutely fine. You can wear clothes that express your personality, as long as your clothing is clean, presentable, it suits your body shape. And it's not just about what you're wearing. Think about your body language, think about your posture, and definitely think about how well groomed you are. And I know sometimes, you know, even as a parent myself, we feel almost like we're nagging our children and saying, you've just played sports, go and have another shower, or you have that daily shower, brush your teeth for a little bit longer, put on deodorant, you know, cut your nails. And obviously as parents, whether we've thought about it consciously or not, we don't want our child's brand to be of someone who's a bit disheveled and a bit unkept and has poor personal hygiene. And I think when we talk about it in those terms, children suddenly get it. Right, so I'm being asked to brush my teeth for 2 minutes, not just for 10 seconds, because I don't want my breath to smell. I don't want people to have these negative associations about me when they think about who I am, or you know, when I'm not in the room. And how you take care of your appearance, it tells other people how you feel about you. If you look respectable, you expect to be treated with respect. And I think maybe, Philip, you said this once, or I'm sure it was for the British School of Excellence, that dress the way you want to be addressed. So dress the way you want to be addressed. So if you want to be addressed in a casual, informal manner, it's absolutely fine to wear casual, informal clothing. But like we say, as long as it's presentable. And I think one of the powerful lessons I learned with the British School of Excellence was the fact that people are forming impressions of us within 3 to 6 seconds of meeting us. That's such a short amount of time for you to put your best foot forward. And the least you can do is be well groomed and just make sure that your packaging is a strong and a reflective brand of who you are. So, yeah, I mean, also talking about that first impression, or what people even think about you when you're not in the room. Let's say if your child arrives late to school every day and they look disheveled and they're yawning and they look bored, their brand, in the teacher's mind, their brand might be someone who's late, someone who forgets their resources, someone who makes excuses, someone who's lazy, because or someone, you know, who's just half-hearted. They're not, their heart and mind isn't in their schoolwork. That's the association they're going to make if that's happening on a regular basis. So I think self-awareness is really important. And body language. I mean, it's just, I think, again, I learned with you, Philip, that 55% of your communication is through your body language. And often I say to the children that I teach that, have you ever had a situation where your parents give you one look across the room, one glare, and you know from that one look that you're in trouble, that you've said or done something wrong. I know it's happened to me, so I'm sure it's happened to many of my students. That's the power of body language. So be aware of the expression on your face, smile, make eye contact, think about your posture. Be aware of whether you have any nervous habits, whether you bite your nails or touch your face when you're nervous. Make those 6 to 7 seconds when you meet someone, make it very impactful before you've even spoken. So yeah, I hope that just gives a flavor for the sort of thing I cover with children when we talk about our physical image and the impression we can make on someone within seconds of meeting them.
What a great, many golden nuggets there, and beautifully put as well. And there's that one expression that always sits in my mind as well. Yeah, that is, if you don't brand yourself, someone will brand you. That's for sure. Or people will brand you according to how you behave, how you act, how you show up. And this is something that I think is I know is fundamental. Is you do get that window. You do get, and sometimes you're very fortunate. You might get a second chance, but those 3 to 6 seconds are so impactful. And this is where I know we shouldn't judge as human beings, but it's innate in us. We know it's innate in us. It's the old dinosaur of our brain that is there to protect us. So we judge immediately. And that's why if you are asked to go to a barbecue, go in your shorts and t-shirt, but make sure you look the part, for example, not, as you said, to look disheveled or that you don't really care. Punctuality is a huge part of your makeup and DNA, and arriving on time, you're already late. So if it's 8 o'clock, school gate opens, you should be there 10 to 8. Those sort of things. And I love your analogy and the way you explained that. Now, you mentioned earlier in this journey, then we talk about our inner strengths, and I'd love you to expand, if you could, please, Sonya, on the importance and the power of our inner strength and how we can tap into that and how we can sort of elevate that.
So I do reflective work with my students. And when I say reflective work, we start to think about, well, what are you good at in the classroom? What are you good at outside of the classroom? What's unique about you? Like perhaps it's your culture or your religion or your background or your preferences. What are you proud of? And we go through, different elements of maybe what a child does outside of school or within school. Are they musical? Are they sporty? Perhaps they're artistic or they're quite techie. And it's about, what are they proud of? What are they passionate about? And it's very confidence boosting, I think, for children to actually think about themselves in this way, to become more acquainted with themselves, to think about what they value in themselves, what other people have noticed in them. And I always say to them, don't be vanilla. And we talk about, well, what does don't be vanilla mean? There's nothing wrong with vanilla, but don't be afraid to stand out. I think children are so desperate to conform, to be like everybody else, and blend in. But it's okay. In fact, embrace what's different about you. Be confident about what's different or unique about you. And I think a lot of children are not exposed to this kind of self-reflective work. And I think a lot of this stems back to your confidence. Confidence might be the way you portray yourself, but inside it's a lot to do with your self-esteem. And often we don't have self-esteem because children haven't thought about, well, actually, what makes me me, and what maybe makes me or my family different to everybody else, and can I own that? So that's the kind of reflective work that I'm talking about, that I do with my students when I'm in a personal branding sort of workshop.
Wonderful. And just something that is, when it comes to reflective work, this is where I know for a fact that we as parents can do so much wonderful work at home. And some of the tools that I know you and I have discussed on numerous occasions that we're fastidious about is having family meals together and really connecting at that table, asking our children what was good about their day, and really taking on board, not just asking them and making it a flippant question, and asking them, what challenges were you faced with during the day, and where did you find that you were feeling a little bit awkward, or you found it a little bit difficult, and what are you looking forward to, for example, in the rest of the week, and really start to connect and engage. We call that the family boardroom table. Get rid of any digital devices and spend quality time with your children. I read a wonderful article many years ago, and that article said, spend half as much money on your children and twice as much time with them. Because at the end of the day, that's what they really crave, is our time. And something that we've all been made very aware of, especially since over the last couple of years, is this draw to our technology, this draw not letting work go and taking it home with us. And I know I've been guilty of it, and like you and I, we do, and Dr. Jacqueline, who's very kindly hosting the show for us, we run our own organizations, and we've got to wear many hats, that's given. But the key to all of this is, as a parent, we have a duty to really envelop and develop our children, and not sort of shun them or push them into a corner by belittling their thoughts and ideas, asking them if they ask you a question, so why did you ask me that question? What do you think? And pushing it back to them. It gives them an opportunity to start to reflect and start to look at things differently. It's not just spoon-fed to them.
Yeah, it's so interesting what you're saying, Philip, because I think, what comes to my mind is children do as we do, not as we say. And even with all the awareness about personal branding, essentially, we are role models, and a lot of their behavior is going to be them emulating what they see in us. And the way we talk to our partners, the way we deal with our family members, the way we deal with difficult situations and conflict, our work ethic, if we're on our phone constantly, they're picking up all of this behavior, and all of this behavior and conduct then becomes part of their personal brand. And one of the first things I think I ever learned with the British School of Excellence was, never let your mood dictate your manners. And it's such a powerful lesson. And that's part of your personal brand, that if you're someone who lets your mood dictate your manners and you're emotionally a bit turbulent, then your personal brand is, well, hang on a minute, when so-and-so's in a good mood, they're a pleasure to be around. And when they're in a bad mood, you have to tread on eggshells around them. And that might become your personal brand if you're going to let your mood dictate your manners. So it's all connected, the way we conduct ourselves and the way we behave and what our children are observing and taking away from us.
Yeah, that was beautifully put, as always, eloquently put. And Sonya, I'm sure there are people out there watching this Live, Learn, Teach, Inspire episode, and hopefully there'll be a lot more people watching it later on when they've got a gap in their lives. But something that's fundamental, and there will be questions about this because we've been asked these sort of questions in the past, is, but how do we do this? Is it possible? And the answer to that is absolutely it's possible. And we, as organizations like yours, we have these incredible tools, to make it fun, interactive, and enjoyable for children and adults to learn how this can change their lives. And it's in the proof. It's in the proof. When you get these testimonials, when you get people walking tall, walking, in comfortable shoes, they really do have this confidence that's been given them. But it's creating good habits for yourself. It's not abracadabra, boom, and a bunny rabbit jumps out the hat. This is, one has to be consistent, especially as parents. And it's going back to what you're sharing and saying. If your child sees mummy and daddy ranting and raving at each other, they're going to believe that's normal. And that's how they might turn up at school, or later on in life have those interactions with their potential partners. And that's not the way to go through life. It really and truly isn't, as you and I both know, all of us know. But it's the old adage in life, monkey see, monkey do. So it is fundamental as parents that we really take charge of giving our children the steering and guidance and helping them build their confidence and find their identity and branding with our guidance and shepherding.
Yeah, and I think, as an educator, we can provide the icing on the cake. I can talk to children to say, have you ever thought about the fact that you're a personal brand and people buy people, and you have to be kind and wonderful and energetic. But at the same time, I am just the icing on the cake, and the cake essentially is what they're witnessing around them, the environment at home, the environment at school, and the upbringing and the messaging that they're taking, because often they don't realize till later on in life what's normal, what's acceptable, what's unacceptable, until maybe they learn the hard way. And so it's a mixture of like earlier on I used the tree analogy, that we have to plant the seed from a young age. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes time for that growth to take place.
Absolutely. And as parents, we do have challenges. So it's the same as, and I don't want to sort of go off in a different direction, but when you look at a well-behaved dog, or you look at a badly behaved dog, it's not the dog, it's often the owner. Or it is the owner, not often. It's normally the owner who's taken that dog and nurtured it and trained it according to how they want that dog to behave, so it's easy to handle. Or you see a dog that's got out of control, and the same happens with our children. It's inevitable. It's like going back to that analogy that I shared earlier on. And Sonya, I'd love you to elaborate into conduct. Give us some ideas on conduct in the term of the context of conduct.
I think with conduct, I always say to my children, as in my students, that be the kind of person you'd like to meet. I think if we're talking about branding, that's really important. Be the kind of person you yourself would like to meet and be acquainted with. Greet people warmly, smile, make eye contact, have a wonderful energy about you. Make people feel that you're actually happy to see them. And I talk to students about humanizing people. When I say humanize, I mean look beyond their job title, look beyond their label. If you go to a shop, the shop assistant is a human being. Maybe they're having a tough day, maybe something's going on for them. So if you see a shop assistant, a security guard, a cleaner, a teacher, even your parents, whoever it might be, look beyond the label of the fact that there's mum, dad, or a cleaner or a teacher. Actually treat them like a human being, converse with them, find out what's happening in their life, or at least how their day is going, and give people the red carpet treatment. So you were talking, Philip, about the fact that these workshops need to be interactive, and one of the ways I make it interactive is I show children images of different celebrities, footballers, music artists, sports personalities, people that they might be familiar with, and we say, how would you behave if this person was in front of you? And the way you would give that person, you wouldn't be on your phone, you would be all eyes and ears for that person. When you meet people, imagine that there's an invisible red carpet underneath them, and treat them with that attention. How are you? How was your day? How was your holiday? How was your last football game? Really they're not going to know that you've laid out an invisible red carpet, but they're going to feel the difference in the way you connect with them, and the way that you're treating them. And that becomes your personal brand, the way you make other people feel. So I talk to children a lot about, well, what does charisma mean? Have you ever heard of the word charisma, or being charismatic? And it's all about putting other people first, over yourself, asking them, how was your presentation? How was your French test? How was your holiday? Complimenting people as long as it's genuine. We don't want any sort of fake, interactions. Making other people feel valued and important, and showing a genuine interest in them. And as well as sort of the way you conduct yourself, it's about what's going on in your mind. So seeing the silver lining, not being someone that complains. If you had a really difficult journey, not just dumping that on people the minute you meet them, not complaining, because that's going to become part of your brand. And one of the things I do with my students is I show them a list of values. For instance, being kind, responsible, brave, patient. And we choose 5 values. And then I say to them, right, now that you've picked the 5 that resonate most with you, let's make an action plan. So if, for instance, they pick responsible, we start to talk about what does that look like in real life. So maybe you're going to do the homework the day it's assigned to you. Maybe you're going to start keeping a to-do list. Perhaps that means getting your uniform and your resources ready the night before. So whatever values they choose, they then take ownership of the fact that, well, how can I actually implement that in my day-to-day life, and how can I make that part of my personal brand? So yeah, the workshops are quite interactive in that sense, that the children have to, it's not just about them listening, it's about children taking that ownership and bringing it to life about how they're going to put their personal brand into practice.
Absolutely love what you just shared. It really is. It is so fundamental and deep. And the former president of the United States, many prime presidents ago, there was President Bill Clinton, and he shared something in a book that I read, which actually I just brought up onto my desk. If I could tell you just one thing, and one of the things, just to complement what you're saying, he said one of the most important things is to see people. The person who opens the door for you, the person who pours your coffee, acknowledge them, show them respect. And that analogy of putting a red carpet under everybody is hugely, hugely powerful, because if we can see things in images, then we can absolutely see through what that first reaction might be. And this is a key ingredient. It really and truly is. And Sonya, just to expand and elaborate what you've just been so wonderfully sharing, is that in a recent workshop that I attended, funny enough, and we had to do, we had to draw up some words and ideas on, the future for work, because we've got AI now, artificial intelligence, which is fantastic if we use it in the correct way. But as we all know, AI can't do emotions, it can't do feelings, it can't do creativity, it can't do leadership skills. It can spit out a lot of information, absolutely. And this is, for the future of work, the future leaders, the top skill sets that have really shone are empathy, a wonderful creative, building a beautiful creative mindset, thinking out the box, the emotional intelligence side of building our EQ. The other aspects of this was the ability to actually accept change, rather than say, the world's changing under our feet, and a growth mindset. And those are just scratching the surface. Those are just, listening skills. The power, God gave us one mouth and two ears. We need to listen more than we speak. So just what you're saying is that if you ask your child a question, or your child asks you a question, be present, have presence intelligence, because this is the foundation that we need to build. We're too easily distracted. I think the average attention span of a human being now is down to about 8 seconds.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting, Philip. And I think, it reminds me, I think one thing you said to me many years ago, listen to understand, not to respond. And I think these skills such as adapting to change, creativity, empathy, it needs to be given as much importance as, English, maths and science. And you don't just become proficient in these skills overnight. It's developed slowly over time and with encouragement. And, I would urge parents to try and seek opportunities to develop these skills as well as their child's academic skills.
And it's neglected in schools, and I'm not pointing a finger at the schools by any other. They've just got so much they're throwing at children now. And I am going to say something that might be a little bit controversial. I truly believe the way the world is moving so fast, a lot of the material that our children are learning or are meant to learn, a lot of it, with all due respect, unless you're going to follow maths, what are you learning algebra for, with all due respect? There's certain areas, your wonderful little daughter might be more creative, so let's focus on her creativity, and that is where I think schools could make a huge impact and incorporate these personal branding workshops, incorporate the power and importance of etiquette and manners. But there needs to be a DNA and an ethos that runs through that specific school, that when they do leave that school, they can absolutely be labeled, oh, they went to X, Y, and Z school, look how well they behaved. And I want to go back right to the beginning of how you must have felt as a parent when your two beautiful children greeted someone at the counter, at the checkout. They made eye contact, they smiled, they interacted, and then someone turned around and said, wow, look how amazing your children are, how polite they are. You must have wanted to float out of that department store. And that gives me goosebumps, because there's nothing more wonderful than someone complimenting a parent on how beautifully presentable and how wonderful it is to have your children for a play date or at a party or whatever it might be. And that is just something that you can only shine like a big beacon or a huge big lighthouse with pride.
Yeah, something clicked. I mean, you know, I think it was mind-boggling for me. It was fascinating to see how quickly it made an impact, and they elevated their personal brand overnight. And, you know, people came up to them personally within a few days after they did the training to say, well, you've got such lovely manners, or they come up to me. And you know, we need constant reminders, though. You know, they need constant reminders, but it's planting that seed. And you also, Philip, talked about growth mindset, which was something I was planning to touch on, because sometimes children, or even as adults, we think our mindset is nothing to do with our personal brand, because it's internal, and our external, our personal branding is external. But what's going on inside absolutely shows on the outside. And as an example, you know, and I always have to remind my children of this, is that if you're doing your homework and your mindset is, I can't be bothered, what are you going to produce? It's going to be poor quality. You're not going to check your work. It might be full of mistakes. Versus, let's say, a child's writing a story for homework, and they think, I really want this to be an incredible story. You know, the literacy techniques they're going to use, checking their work, creating beautiful characters and settings, all because the mindset is either I can't be bothered, or I really want to create something amazing. I really want to impress my teacher. And that applies to everything that your child does. If they're playing football and they say, oh, I feel lazy, I can't be bothered, versus someone who turns up or shows up on the pitch with I'm going to smash it, I'm going to you know, be my best. The way they show up on the pitch is very, very different. And even things like helping around the house. If you say to your child, can you please help me to load the dishwasher and clear the kitchen? You can tell from the expression on their face, their body language, the pace of their work, whatever's going on with their attitude and their mindset is showing in their pace and attitude of their work. And children need to be made aware of this, that what's going on in there actually is coming out in your behavior and your performance. And the reason I care about this so much is I feel that habits are formed from a very young age. And I know for myself, the habits that I formed from a young age are really hard, not impossible, but it's harder to break them later on in life. So if you have that kind of half-hearted attitude, or you have a fixed mindset rather than a growth mindset, that might carry on from primary school to secondary school, to university, to your job, to the way you run your home, to the way you conduct your relationships. So my aim for children is to start as they mean to go on. You know, be hardworking, energetic, have a determined attitude, you know, have an attitude of gratitude. Develop all of this from now so it becomes part of your character and it all forms part of your personal brand.
Just phenomenal. Great content. Wonderful. And if there are any listeners out there that have any questions for us, just type it in, and our producer, Dr. Jacqueline, will share those questions or comments. So please feel free to share or ask questions at any time, and we'll handle them as best as we can. Sonya, with regard to what you've just shared, I couldn't agree with you more, and I know one could dig a lot deeper into that. You know, that mindset and attitude, the head and the heart are connected, whether we like it or not. And this is where you and I have had great conversations about emotional intelligence, and it's okay to ask someone, how are you actually feeling today, and for them to open up and explain themselves to you, because we can't be, you know, that bouncy jack in the box all day long with all this kind of energy going boom, boom, because we do all get what I love to use as a puncture. And, you know, I've got to know myself very well, that I know when I'm about to get a puncture, and I know then how I can start to nurture myself or look after myself a little bit better, so that hopefully I don't have such a bad puncture that I completely deflate. That's just as an example. And again, I know in your journey, in your coaching, with your incredible foundation of emotional intelligence, etiquette, manners, and just your general experience in raising two wonderful children, is that it is about creating those good habits as early on as possible and nurturing them and praising and sharing and allowing our children to share their feelings and share their thoughts. And it really is a fundamental skill set that it's okay to say, you know what, Mum, I'm not feeling so good today, or I'm really nervous about my football match. And then we as parents can draw it out to them and then give them some tools to potentially change and shift that mindset. And as you and I both know, we often take someone to their happy place. Maybe they close their eyes and they go to their happy place, which can elevate them. There are many, many wonderful tools that we teach. You and I both incorporate in our guidance and steering. And I believe there have been a couple of comments and things coming through the chat. So I'd love our producer just to share. There we go. Any tips to change the fixed mindset to growth mindset for children? And that's from Apri Shah. Thank you, Apri Shah.
I think with changing a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, it's very much about your self-talk. So if my children say to me, I'm just not very good at cricket, or I'm not very good at maths, I'm like, firstly, you're not very good yet. Always remember that word yet. And it's about, well, actually, if I'm not good at something, what can I do? If I've made a mistake, it's okay. I've learned from that mistake. If I didn't do very well at a test, what is it that what mistakes have I made that I can learn from next time? It's picking up from failures or picking up from setbacks, bouncing back, being resilient. But I think in the short run, it's really about changing that self-dialogue. Can I try a different strategy? Can someone help me? My best friend is really good at that. Could my friend help me, or could I get some tips? So changing the narrative that's going on in your mind from something negative to something positive and catching your own thoughts. And that's where, Philip, when you talked about having those conversations with your child, I think that's really important that parents do that and also give their own experiences that actually, I used to struggle with this, and this is how I overcame my struggle when I was stuck on something or when I found something difficult. So we can't wave a magic wand and make them have a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, but changing the narrative and dialogue going on in our mind, catching our thoughts. I think having an attitude of gratitude. I ask my children almost every day, what are you grateful for today? And it doesn't always have to be the big things like, the house or, family. It could be, a meal that they had, their favorite flavor of ice cream. It could be just noticing what they're grateful for. And another thing I'm a believer in, which I've come across more recently, and I think there's a bit of a difference, not just an attitude of gratitude, but an attitude of awe as well. And by awe, I mean, let's say they see a beautiful sunset, actually stopping and being a bit mindful and noticing, wow, isn't that sunset so beautiful? Or that squirrel playing in the garden, actually stop and take notice of how beautiful and how inquisitive that squirrel is, or looking at the makeup of a flower and just having that attitude of awe about things around you. And that happened, I think, whether it's a growth mindset or an attitude of gratitude, an attitude of awe, a lot of that is sharing your thoughts out aloud with your child, having that dialogue and trying make them see things with a different perspective.
And again, great words coming out and great guidance. The other thing that's fundamental is when we speak, we give life to our words. So if you say, I'm not good at something, those words have become alive and it starts to affect the way we handle and believe. So again, you might be thinking it, but just put a zip on it and think of, as you said, you used a wonderful phrase, is put a pause in there or something before you sort of initiate what you're going to share. And that is really, really important. And there's something else that I'd like to attach to this. And that is that always that you often hear people say, oh, why has this happened to me? Oh, it's always my luck. let's turn that around and say, why did that happen for me? What was the message in that? Why did it happen for me? And what can I take away from that? What can I learn in this particular situation? So I just love what you shared there. And I know that there's another comment that Dr. Jacqueline's going to share with us or input. So hello from Luxembourg. That's wonderful. That's a LinkedIn user. We're not sure who that is. Please, as I said earlier, if there are any questions, anything you want to share with us, please feel free to do so. That is what we're here for. And on that note, Sonya, I know that you've got some workshops up and coming. I would love you to share some dates and what's going on in your calendar over the next couple of months so that our audience can engage. And also, I know all of your social media and contact details are very much available on this particular platform. So please, ladies and gentlemen, reach out to Sonya Moledina. She is phenomenal at what she does, incredibly powerful. And don't take my word for it, don't take Sonya's word for it. All you've got to do is see the amazing testimonials. So Sonya, over to you, please, on what's up and coming.
Right, so my advice would be to visit the website, etiquetteandemotions.com, and you can contact me directly through the website. And in due course, with the British School of Excellence and myself, we are planning to do a personal branding workshop for children late in a few months' time. And that will be aimed at sort of the tween to teenage sort of years, let's say sort of around 10, 11 years old upwards. And if you're interested in that, then I would say, yeah, contact me through the website, and I can share more information about this sort of collaboration with the British School of Excellence to offer personal branding, because I just think it's such a valuable skill. There's so many lessons to be learned. And yeah, I've run a few personal branding workshops that have been really well received by parents and students.
Absolutely. And for anyone out there that may feel that etiquette and manners and EQ are either for clever people, posh people, you couldn't be further from the truth. The power of etiquette and manners and emotional intelligence are the key to unlocking the most incredible doors in anyone's life, whether you're a child of X 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, going up north of that. It is the most crucial skill set that we as parents can give our beautiful children, and it starts from a very, very early stage, ladies and gentlemen. Sonya, are there any little points that you would love to share in, because I know time is, we've got an hour and we've got a few minutes left. I'd love you just to, if there's anything that you would like to sort of finish off on and share, I would love you to please take the reign and do so.
Yeah, I think one last thing I would say, Philip, before we end is that I think we rarely outperform our self-image. So I'll say that again, we rarely outperform our self-image. And recently I saw this lovely image, maybe some of you have seen it on social media, of a cat who looks in the mirror, and in the reflection, this cat sees a lion, and he's got so much self-belief, he's so empowered. And that's my aspiration for the students that I coach, that a lot of this begins with your self-esteem, the way you see yourself, what you say to yourself, being aware of your strengths, but also accepting your weaknesses. You know, we can't all be great at everything. And I think that is the whole point of personal branding, that you're aware of what your skills and strengths are that you want to offer to the world. And you can also accept perhaps what you're not so good on and what you want to work on. And, you know, it's a fascinating topic, and I would absolutely love to work with, you know, any parents listening. I'd absolutely love to work with your children and add value and sort of have that breakthrough that I think my own children had when they've undergone sort of personal development training. So yeah, thank you, Philip.
Beautifully put, beautifully put. And it really leaves me to say that everything in life is about taking action. Everything in life is about being able to put your best foot forward. And that is what we as passionate coaches in this specific industry, we facilitate the most wonderful, interactive, engaging workshops and classes and lessons. And you know, engaging with Sonya, ladies and gentlemen, is a real experience of joy, and the results are just phenomenal. And it really leaves me to thank you so much, Sonya, for your wonderful time, making this all this whole 1 hour to be with us. I know a lot of preparation goes into this. This is not, we just don't pitch up and say, here I am, and we go into this. There's a huge amount of preparation that goes into this. So I thank you so much for all your input, all that you add value to, all that you do and add value to people's lives. It's just truly remarkable. And I know you do it from deep down inside your heart. So shukran, thank you so much. It's an absolute joy and a pleasure to see you.
Thank you, Philip. Likewise, it's been such a pleasure, and I really look forward to us working together to make a difference, help the next generation be the best versions of themselves, and help them with emotional intelligence, social skills, and all the skills for their future. So thank you so much, Philip.
Thank you, Sonya, and take care, and we'll chat soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. That leaves us to close out the Live, Learn, Teach, Inspire episode for May. There will be one in June, July, August, September, and all the respective months coming up off the back of that. We have got phenomenal specialists lined up for all of you out there who really want to live, learn, teach, and go on to inspire others to take away with you. It's for you, and we really hope that you can take the time to reflect on what has been shared in today's episode. And I thank you for watching the show and making the time. For those of you who watch it later, again, thank you so much, and I wish you and bid you farewell. Thank you.